Come on, you Spurs. That's what I like to see. Come on, boys. Come on, boys. Finally, a good result. We've had a few good results, but finally, a performance. I don't care if FC Copenhagen are championship level or whatever. It's Champions League. Spurs still unbeaten in the competition. And now, look, doing what we've wanted them to do, doing what people have been calling for them to do all season. Play progressively, play on the front foot, go for the opposition. From minute one, we were on the front foot, we were attacking them relentlessly. It's wonderful. Wonderful performance, wonderful scoreline, and just real, like, one of those games where I just feel so buoyant afterwards. Do you know what I mean? Like when we went sort of 3-0 up, then it goes to 4, and it's just like bang, bang. Where's this going to stop? Every single attack, it felt like we were going to, it almost looked like we were going to get a 5th straight after the 4th as well. Similar thing, Spurs just breaking away. Everyone kind of flocking into the opposition half, knocking the ball about swiftly, incisively. People playing with a bit of instinct, people playing with a bit of gumption, you know? It's what I want to see from them. It's what we want to see. It's what we've wanted to see all season. And I've got to say, there were moments tonight where I was thinking, Palhinha's not beating the allegations, man. Like, the way we were threading the ball about, the front-footedness of it, Xavi dropping deep, looping the ball over the top for the first goal, and was just generally playing brilliantly, I thought, tonight. I called him a magician on Twitter. A little bit of pushback, most people agreeing. Lovely performance from him. Probably his best performance in a Spurs shirt so far. It just, I don't know. It felt like, I think it's twofold, right? I think there's a few things at play here. Frank's let him play a bit tonight. I think we can say that. I think, look, he's probably conscious of the fact that the entire discourse, well, I was going to say the week's discourse, we only played Chelsea on Saturday, but the discourse for the past couple of days has been Frank is stunting this Spurs side. Frank is not allowing them to play. Look at this negative football that Spurs are playing. I'm pretty sure he even got asked it in the pre-match presser ahead of this game. Why are you playing so negatively? And he's like, no, I don't play negative football. I never played negative football at Brentford. I don't really know what's going on, kind of thing. So he's obviously kind of refuting that a bit. And whether or not he's seen the strength of the opposition, and with all due respect to FC Copenhagen, they're not one of the elite teams in the Champions League. I think they were 22nd in the table before tonight, 22nd of 24 teams. They are the sort of team that when you're playing them at home, you should be going for. So he would have had no excuses tonight doing the Palhinha-Bentancur double pivot. Either way, he hasn't done that. So, yeah, he's probably approached this in a more front-footed fashion. He's probably had in the back of his mind, look, people are always going to say a manager's not going to bend to public pressure. Is it good that a manager's responding to? I don't really care about all that stuff. I just think on a human level, he's probably thought, right, I've got to kind of go for this a bit. I've got to try and win the players over a bit. There were those sort of somewhat unpleasant scenes after the unpleasant scenes is a bit dramatic, but you know what I mean? There were the uncomfortable scenes after the game of Van der Ven and Spence kind of publicly, mugging him off basically. And it was heartening to hear that they actually unprompted went to his office and apologized for it. People are going to have different opinions about that type of thing, but in my opinion, that's the right thing to do. I'm not saying, heat of the moment players aren't allowed to be frustrated. I know they're young men. I know they've been booed by a stadium for the people. They probably don't want to go and clap and wave and all that type of stuff. I get it. I completely understand. I'm not policing their frustration per se, but I think mugging the manager off in the fashion that they did so publicly is just not a good look. It's not a good look. Keep that stuff in-house. If you need to have a go at him or you need to question the tactics or whatever, keep it in-house. That's just kind of my opinion. So I didn't like them doing that publicly. But to hear that they went to him straight up and apologized, I think is a good thing. But regardless of that, I think Frank has probably had a lot of that on the back of his mind. People think I'm playing too negatively. Maybe I do need to switch it up a bit. And switch it up we did. The other factor going into this is the players individually have a point to prove. I'm sure a lot of those players didn't like being booed. I'm sure a lot of those players don't like the fact that, yeah, all right, they might be able to throw the manager under the bus. I'm not saying they are doing that. But I'm saying player power is as such that players are always going to have a certain kind of leverage here where they know that the press are going to go to the manager first. They know that generally speaking, fans are going to question the manager's tactics and things like that first. So the players do get a bit of leeway. But at the same time, you know, a lot of people have been calling out their performances. A lot of people have been saying, well, what's Frank supposed to do with the quality of this squad? And, you know, I do think a few of those have probably sat up and thought, well, you know, I don't like playing this way. And, I would like to think that a team that has just won the Europa League would have a bit more sort of pride than we saw against Chelsea the other night. I think Chelsea was an overall pretty disgusting performance from front to back, managerially, player-wise. And I think a lot of them will have wanted to sort of rectify that. There's been some big talk in the presses from Vicario and from Frank. I think Vicario's statement about the players, not the fans not supporting the players, has been probably willfully taken out of context a bit by the aggregators. If you actually look at the full context of Vicario's comments, he has said, of course, the bit they focused on is him saying, look, it's always going to be more helpful to the players if they've got the stadium behind them at all times, which, I think is a fair statement to make. But if it was made in isolation in the context of having only won 3-4 games all year at the home stadium, having played pretty appallingly at home consistently, the ticket prices being what they are, it's not a good look. But he did go on to say that they also understand why the fans are frustrated. They understand why a performance that they put in against the likes of Chelsea in a London derby is going to frustrate people, and they're frustrated too, and so on and so forth. So he was making, he was being much more apologetic than the little clipped out part of his comments in the presser were made out to be. But Frank sort of said something kind of similar as well. And, it's always going to be the way, isn't it? Like, fans, players and managers are generally, when they sort of know they could be doing better, are always going to say, well, it would be helpful if the fans did this. But, I think it's hard to dig out Spurs fans at this point in time. And, there were a lot of empty seats. There were a lot of empty seats tonight. And you only have to look at the fact that this was a Category B fixture? I think it was Category B. This was in between two Cat A fixtures on a Tuesday night. I mean, it's just, there's easy wins to be had here, right? Save the height. Look, people will, if Spurs get through the league stage of the Champions League, any knockout phase of the Champions League, I'm not saying they should, but my point is, you could make every single game in the knockouts of the Champions League a Category A fixture, which they probably will anyway, and that stadium will be full. It will be full. In the league stages against FC Copenhagen, £20-30 tickets, fill the stadium. That's what you need to do. Fill the stadium. Give parents the opportunity to take their kids to these sort of games. FA Cup, League Cup, the lesser games in the Champions League, right? If we're hosting, I know we're playing PSG away, but if we were hosting a PSG, if we're hosting a Real Madrid, somebody like that, fine, Category A. I think everybody will reconcile that. People will understand that's how it works. FC Copenhagen at home, you can't justify 60, 65, 70 pounds, whatever it is for that. Champions League or not, you just can't. Let's just be real about it. So it was interesting to see TNT pick up on that. I think they made a fairly good point about it. And then Joe Hart sort of undid it a bit by saying the stadium would be full if Spurs were doing well, though, which I think is kind of beside the point. I think we have to focus on the fact that football fans are asked to shell out a lot of money right now. And people can be forgiven for being conscious of how much they have paid for a ticket. Yes, it doesn't entitle them to win every game. Yes, it doesn't entitle you to sit down and watch Spurs win 3-4-0 like we have done this evening. It doesn't entitle you to that, but it at least entitles you to want to see the team perform to the best of their abilities. And most football fans, nobody likes to see their team lose, but most football fans really are reasonable enough to say, and I do think they are. I do think a lot of football fans don't get the credit they deserve a lot of the time. And I think most people will say, look, if we were just beaten by the better team, then that's kind of fair enough. Mostly like I heard after the Newcastle game, to be brutally honest. The general consensus I saw from Spurs fans was Newcastle were just better than us on the night. Disappointing to be out of the League Cup, but they were better than us and we lost. And that's what happens sometimes. But look, this is all bigger issue stuff. I don't really need to be going on about this right now. We've won 4-0 tonight. It's a brilliant performance. Frank has switched it up. Xavi Simons has put in one of the best performances I've seen from him in a Spurs shirt. Pape Matar, again, to me, look, I know you'll be shocked to hear me talking about Pape Matar, but Pape Matar for me has again shown why he is so crucial to this team. He set the tempo, and he did for me. He set the tempo from minute one. He always makes himself available. He never hides. Rodrigo Bentancur has had a good game tonight, but Rodrigo Bentancur started to have a very good game when the tempo started to suit Spurs having a good game. And I'm not saying he hid or anything, but he did not set the tempo, and he does not set the tempo. And when things don't go well for Spurs, like against Chelsea, Rodrigo Bentancur has a habit of hiding. Pape Matar, every time he is on the football pitch for Tottenham Hotspur, never hides. He never, ever hides. He always makes himself available. He looks to receive every ball. He looks to break up every opposition play. He drops back to pick up the ball. He drives forwards. The second he gets the ball, he drives forwards. He gets the ball towards the business end of the pitch. He makes things happen. He sets the tempo. He sets the press for me. And I just think he's crucial to what we do. I think he is one of our most important players. I really, really do. And I know I always bang on about him. I know I always go on about him, but I feel that strongly about him. We'll do all the players individually, but it was Colomwani starting to look pretty special, isn't he? Like, very good performance. Wilson Odobert, brilliant player. I'm not going to sit here and say I've sat here and said he's going to definitely be amazing, but I have said from pretty much the beginning I've seen a lot of promise in him. And some people are going to say, "Oh, he's found his level. He's playing against Copenhagen." But I think he was very, very good tonight. There was a fluidity to Spurs. There was a fluidity to the way we played and what we were doing that was just. It was brilliant. It was a joy to behold, and this is what we want to see more of. We want to see more of this, knowing that we are capable of doing this. I'm not going to focus on the negatives. I'm not going to say, "Oh, it makes it disappointing that we haven't seen this." It doesn't matter. Knowing that we can do this is good. It's heartening. It allows the sort of creeping, dispiriting feeling that does come in after the past few weeks, at least, where we've been eking out results. I mean, I say that we smashed Everton in their backyard as well and played really well there. So, I do think there is perhaps, and I talk about this a lot. And yes, again, I totally understand the irony of a man sat here talking to himself about there being too much discourse around football, but there is. And I think we know that. And I think we know we talk about and dissect every single thing about football, probably too much, but I'm going to continue doing it anyway. Thing is, there's been a creeping, dispiriting feeling around Spurs because we don't really know how good or not we are. How good or not is Thomas Frank? How good or not is this squad? And I think just what performances like tonight show you. Yes, I'm not saying we're going to go and win the Champions League from this, but the bottom line of this is FC Copenhagen are a team that, with all due respect and all that type of stuff, Spurs should be comfortably turning over. And what have we done tonight? Comfortably turn them over. We have done our job. We have done our job with aplomb. And that is good. That is something we should be happy about. It's not something we should be using to say, well, why haven't we done that? Or, well, we've only done it because it's this. We've only done. This is what we've done. We've done what we were supposed to do tonight, and we've done it in lovely fashion. Micky van der Ven pretty much scoring a carbon copy of Sonny's Puskás goal against Burnley. Like an absolutely I was slack-jawed watching that happening because I was thinking, like when he went past the halfway line, I was thinking, he's going to do it. He's going to score this. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, one of those when you're like, I'm almost like not excited about this because I'm sort of just so confident in the fact that he's going to do this. He's actually going to go and score this. This is mad. And it was, the thing is, though, it wasn't an easy finish either. It was after the run, after the way he's marauded down the length of an entire football pitch, the angle that he had there and the finish that he's produced is sensational. Like any striker in the world, any player in the world would be happy with that goal, with all parts of that goal. But the finish itself was absolutely phenomenal. And I really, I don't mean to be over the top when I say this. That has to be in running for the Puskás Award. It has to be. It's a sensational goal. It's an absolutely phenomenal goal. He's a force of nature, that lad. Like, he's so hard to just like to pin down as an athlete. Well, he's not that hard to pin down as an athlete. I'm not really making my point very clearly here. Just in respect to, like, he's a titan. That's what he is. Like, he is a supreme athlete. And that goal is just, yeah, I mean, something special, something absolutely special, that goal. I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm just buzzing. I think it's lovely to see Spurs playing that well and getting a result like that. Red card, an absolute joke, like an absolute joke. I don't know how a VAR official has looked at that and thought that was worthy of a red card. It was quite clear what's happened there. His foot was hanging, but it wasn't coming in with any force. It wasn't coming in at a particularly malicious angle. It's made the slightest contact. It's a clumsy, mistimed challenge that didn't look at all dangerous. It just didn't. It didn't look, the way in which the players were moving. What they've done there is completely remove the context from it. They've just simply said, whatever it was, the excuse they said, or the reasoning for it was his studs were up or studs were showing, whatever. But it just completely stripped the context from when you watch the way that has played out. Why would you try to pretend that you don't see that is not a red card challenge? And this is the thing about VAR for me too much of the time, is that it's making officials too scared to use their own judgment, to use their own human judgment. People, we're all saying, oh, these officials are all awful. They don't know anything. They all know football. There's a reason why they want to be an official in football, because they love football. They're probably not good enough to be football players, but they want to be involved in the game in some way, shape, or form. So they've gone on to be an official. So they all obviously love football. They all probably watch football. They all know the way football works, the way people's bodies move and all this type of stuff. So when you see incidents like the Brennan Johnson one tonight, why would you deny the truth that you know with your own eyes? this is what I don't understand. And you know that everybody watching it knows that you're making the incorrect decision. You know you're making the incorrect decision. But what you are trying to do is just interpret in the most jobs-worthy fashion whatever the rules are. But you just quite simply know that was not a red card. It's ridiculous. And that's the thing with VAR. There's just too much of that. There's just too much of that nonsense for me. Let's do this. I am streaming tonight because it's exciting, isn't it? I got all excited, and also it's not my shift this time. Yay! I'm not saying I'm not doing. I'm not doing. Oh yeah, I don't have to look after baby. I am a modern man, and I love looking after my baby, and I feel very blessed about it. So I'm not going to do like, well, I'm off the hook, lads. I'm not doing that. I'm going to call myself out there. Pathetic, mate. Pathetic. Who are you showing off to? Pathetic. Transformational Mangoes says, Coys. Yes. James 83 says, at last! Exclamation mark. Yes, James. Transformational Mangoes also says, big win at home, a much needed big win. Big win energy. Robert says, nice evening, up the Spurs. Go on. Day says, loved how we played, but got to keep our feet on the ground. Copenhagen were miserable. Could be the worst team we play all year. I know what you're saying, Day, but like I say, we've done our job. Yes, Copenhagen weren't very good. They were championship, if not League One standard. However, what you would expect of Spurs is to beat a team like this 4 or 5-0. And that's what we've done. So, we've done our part. John Benfield says, first game where Moani looked like he actually wanted to play for us. It's Champions League, isn't it? It's exciting. It's exciting for everybody. Hacker BLCPS says, woo, in a Ric Flair fashion. Darren says, Bentancur is clearly a much better footballer than Palhinha. I think it depends as to what you're asking him to do. I would say, Bentancur he's a better passer, isn't he? I don't think, was that ever in doubt? I don't know. I don't think if that was ever a question or not. The thing is, Bentancur, whether or not you want to compare him with Palhinha, Bentancur can be and needs to be upgraded upon. That's sort of my feeling on him. Don't think he's the player that he once was. And that's understandable. That's not his fault, but that's the way that it is, and is what it is. Eris says, needed that subpar opposition or not. Really hope we can back it up this weekend. Coys, bang on. Michael Tamariz says, have we considered playing with 10 men to spark the attack in future? That's what Joe Hart was saying, wasn't it? In joking fashion. He said it almost feels like a tactical masterstroke by Thomas Frank to play with 10 men. John Benfield also says, excellent performance all round. Players standing up and taking some accountability. Jask says, what a goal, Jack. Van de Ven looking like prime Sonny. Needed this before United. Johnson off again. Ole, ole. Pirate Dread Roberts says, just feels good to know you're the better team, then go out and prove it. Need more of this approach. Bang on. Absolutely bang on. And that's it. That's all you can ask for. Zeros and ones. Dane's undone by Dane, managed by Dane. Dane's, yeah. But who's that? Are you talking about Dane Scarlett, I guess? Dane Scarlett was a lovely little cameo. Really, really nice footwork on the ball to win that penalty. I wish they'd let him have it as well. I wish he'd been given it, but I get it. Zeros and ones also says, love that we've beaten a team with Cope in their name. There we go. James Nicholson says, is Van de Ven the new Gareth Bale? What a goal. Much better tonight, but still felt we were too passive at times in the first half and passed the ball backwards too much. Are you not entertained, James Nicholson? Are you not entertained? Come on, mate. No, fair enough. It's fair enough. It's fair enough, right? Even in times of mirth, even in times of joy, to just want to take a step back and piss on it for everyone else, James. Fair enough, mate. I'm only joking. Just Gems, I think Copenhagen let us play all the space and time they wanted, pretty much. A fun watch for once. Hopefully a night off the Premier League. Press can give the lads some confidence. That's what we want, isn't it? Cameron Arthur, oh, look who's come crawling back to the video reaction streams. Robert says Van de Ven could seriously deputise at number 9, and I think he'd be better than Richarlison. Would be quite mad to see. It would be sort of interesting to see. It could be one of those things where he does all right in the moment, but if you actually set your stall out that way, he could probably be quite horrific. K9 McGurn 1 says, I said on Twitter, maybe not a coincidence, our first nice attacking football now that Polina is on the bench. Goal and assist after he was subbed on. Apologies, I'm a dunce. Well, I don't know. Jack Underhill says, Bentancur man of the match. I'm not having that. Xavi, Moani, Udogie and Odeber were great. Head was on Marza and Richarlison took the penalty off Scarlett. And do you know? I'll tell you what the thing is as well. I am self-avowed Brexit AF when it comes to penalties. Just step up, put your foot through the ball, and twat it into the back of the net. Do you know what I mean? Like none of this messing around, none of this like stuttering run-up stuff like he did. It drives me insane every single time they do it. Every single time a player does that, stop, start, like tiptoes, all this type of the Roberto Carlos, like tiptoeing towards the ball. Just step up and smack it into the back of the net. Those are always the penalties that are the best. They're like, I honestly think attackers put themselves at a disadvantage by doing that, by doing the stop, start, stuttering stuff. Most of the penalties that I see missed are ones where they try and do that. Just pick your corner and smack it into it. It's one thing. One of my like Midar type complaints about penalties, and I agree with him, has always been they are paid loads of money to train to kick footballs all the time. They should know the weight, the angles, all of it of a football. Any player anywhere on the pitch should be able to dispatch a penalty. Yes, technically speaking, that does take away from the fact there's pressure on, there's this, there's that. There is a psychological element to taking a penalty. But on a technical basis, every single player, look, let's be real, even your average sort of Sunday league player can take a decent penalty. Just step up, smack it into the back of the net. Do it. K9 McGurn also says, am I allowed to get pre-mad about the handbrake back on against United? He better not. He better not. Why I order if he does. Phil Walker says, Coy's Polinia with the fire assist for Van de Ven's goal. And Mike Wilcox says, Copenhagen are a pub side. They may well be, but we did them, so that's good. Robert says also, big psychological boost to get a win without Kudus. Again, Kudus, just a knock. It's never just a knock with Spurs, is it? It's never just a knock. I think it was just a knock with Kulusevski, wasn't it? And look what happened there. So, Ollie Whitefoot says, if Dembele or Yamal scored that goal, it would win the Puskás. I think that's a fair point. I mean, there's every chance that it might. It should do. It should at least be in the conversation, you know? Let's see. Soul Sniper Gaming says, I don't want to see another scared performance on Saturday. I don't want to see Polina and Bentancur ever again. Grow a pair for Saturday. Is that me or Spurs or both? Probably both. Joshua Pardy says, Sonny's was slightly better because he was skipping past multiple challenges. But yes, Puskás in the books. Go on then. Rory Porteous says, you're not proper Spurs if you didn't brick yourself when he didn't square it to Moani. Yep. Jordan Emmett. Sorry, the chat's just refreshed itself. It's done that annoying thing that it likes to do. Jordan Emmett says Madders plus Xavi next season might be a movie. Could be nice, couldn't it? Will they play together, though? Robert also mentions as well Xavi's face when he was subbed off. Come on, man. Yeah, but again, I want that, mate. I want to see a player that wants to be playing, you know? I like that. I like that he's got the hunger. I like that he wants to be involved and make stuff happen. And I did feel bad for him getting taken off, if I'm honest. Isla Lillywhite says, is there anything more Richarlison than grabbing a penalty from an academy graduate than rattling the bar? Still, up the Spurs, Van de Ven is better than Van Dijk. I mean, he definitely is this season. Van Dijk's fallen off a cliff, man. William Gardner, hello, mate. I've only just joined this, so may have been said already, but could we play and evolve Micky van de Ven as a striker? Thanks. Well, we have spoken about that, mate. So you'll have to listen to the audio version as well, won't you? Gary Bradley says, despite Colomwani missing 2 sitters, you can tell he is leagues above anything Richarlison offers in relation to hold-up, link-up play. When he's completely fit, he'll be a beast. Don't forget Colomwani is the man that missed a sitter in the World Cup final to basically win it for France, didn't he? Was a good save by Emi Martinez, but also, let's be real, was remarkably similar to Sonny's in the game against Manchester City, actually. Jack Underhill said Randa Colomwani's touch before the Odobert assist was sublime. It was very beautifully done. That was beautifully done. It's just lovely. Oh, Bayern Munich one as well. And I know it's not the Harry Kane podcast. I know it's not the Bayern Munich podcast, but I am worried about Arsenal winning the Champions League. And it's good to see Bayern Munich looking good. I think they do have Arsenal next in the Champions League at the Emirates. So that'll be interesting to see. Be lovely to see if Harry Kane can show up there and do the business against them. But still, look, maybe Spurs will win the Champions League. I have been saying from the start of the season, I've got a feeling that Spurs, and I say this based on the fact that we did win the Europa League last year, that it might give us a certain confidence that is maybe unearned, but a certain confidence in this competition that we might be able to do all right. You know, people say winning breeds winning. People learn how to win tournaments and stuff. We won a major European trophy last year. Let's do it again. Let's do it again, eh, boys? Let's do it again. Come on, you Spurs. We don't need to be sat here pining for Bayern Munich. Oh, Harry Kane, I hope he wins it. I hope Tottenham Hotspur win it. I want to see Christian Romero lifting it up this season. Imagine that. Imagine that, the white and navy ribbons on the Champions League. Please. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's do the players. Again, I say at this juncture, if you are listening to the audio version and you don't like adverts, if you're one of those people that wants to complain in the comments about adverts being on your free podcast, you can sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/RTRpod. If you join the supporter tier on there, you get every single episode of Rule the Roost podcast completely ad-free. So join the Patreon. There's also the Inner Sanctum tier where you get extra podcasts. Patreon.com/RTRpod. There's also a Discord. You can join the Discord and chat in that, which is generally people slandering Julien Vicario. But less about that at the moment. Let's do the players. Julien Vicario, very good tonight. Went down holding his hamstring again. I think he did that the other night, didn't he, against Chelsea? He's obviously playing through the pain barrier right now. As much as I have been digging out Vicario, and I still stand by much of my feeling on him that we're going to need to improve on him if we are going to win a league or all that type of stuff. I don't really want to see Kinski in goal. So hopefully he gets over whatever's wrong with him pretty sharpish. Good performance tonight, though. Wasn't really tested, but he did. There was one opportunity, I think, when we were only 1-0 up as well, where they had a really good shot. I'm not sure who it was. One of the Copenhagen players sort of switched in from the wing, obviously turned it onto his stronger foot, cracked one towards goal that curled, and Vicario kind of plucked it out of the air. He dived quite low, but actually just caught it in a fashion that I'm not really used to seeing him doing. He's much more of like a reflex sort of palmer outer, isn't he? But other than that, good performance. Destiny Udogie, I mean, he's showing how integral he is to us on that left-hand side, isn't he? I do think I've said this on Twitter, I do think he's levels above Spence. I'm here for Spence. Really like him. I'm really liking his redemption arc. I do think when Udogie's fit, he is miles better than him. Cue people saying, well, of course a natural left back is going to be better than a right back filling in at left back. But then so much of the conversation is always Jed Spence is better at left back than he is at right back as well. So I don't know. Do we want to see Jed Spence playing on the right some more? Maybe. Pedro Porro does arguably get overplayed. But whatever the case, Destiny Udogie was great tonight. I think he overlapped pretty well with Wilson Odobert, at least linked up well with him. He drives forwards. He's really good defensively. He's really good offensively. His engine is impeccable. It's brilliant. It's a shame he seems to be made of crisps, because it would be nice to sort of feel like we could get an entire season out of him, a prolonged amount of time, but you just never feel that confident that we will. However, let's not focus on that right now. Let's focus on the fact he just put in a very good performance as he does. Technically brilliant, physically brilliant, mentally brilliant, just a brilliant player. An absolute gem. Really, really wonderful piece of business. Wonderful player. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. Micky van der Ven obviously stole the show with that goal. Good performance again. Wasn't really tested, but was resolute, was solid in most of his actions. And let's just focus on that goal. Wonderful, wonderful goal. Did I hear it right? Is he our top scorer this season? That's pretty mental, isn't it? That's also quite emblematic. That's quite ironic, isn't it? Is it ironic? I don't know. I think I'm doing the thing where I use ironic incorrectly. Whatever I want to say, he has. It's what my point was. It's funny to see a defender being the top scorer in this Frank season when we're talking about as being really negative. Great goal though, great performance. Christian Romero, lovely to see him back. Good to see his minutes getting managed. Danso coming on to replace him. He, obviously nearly set up one for the fifth straight after the fourth. Good performance, resolute. You can't help but think as well that he has contributed to the fact that we have been playing much better. It tends to be that most of our play comes from Romero. And when Romero isn't on the pitch, we don't actually tend to play in as attractive a fashion. He is a ball-playing centre-back. He does read the game exceptionally well. He does always tend to pick out a decent pass and start build attacks, catenaccio, build attacks from the back. We play better when Romero plays. So as I am a fool for all the times I've always said to get rid of him, moaning about the fact he wants to play for Argentina and not for Spurs, whatever. He is quite clearly, and I think by a considerable distance, this club's best footballer. And I know people find it cringe when people say this, but him signing a new contract this summer is a major signing for Spurs. It is like one of the biggest pieces of business we've done. So hopefully he can stay fit, El Capitan, and we will reap the rewards of his partnership with Micky van der Ven. Pedro Porro, Cal, who was on the pod yesterday, made the really good point that Porro is one of those players that needs to do this. There's an analogy they use in boxing where they say sometimes some boxers need to download the data. So it takes them a bit of time to get into the swing of a swing of a fight, swing of a bout, understand what it is that the opposition fighter is about, see how they move, see what they do, and then react accordingly. He made the point that Pedro Porro is sometimes like that. He will have 10, 15 minutes of getting skinned, not really being able to get the ball out of his own half. And then suddenly he can just spring into life. I don't really think that was the case tonight. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was an interesting point that Cal made. I thought pretty much from start to finish this evening, Pedro Porro was fantastic. Really good performance. Some beautiful, beautiful whipped crosses from deep late on into the game today. I still think he's been. I think he's been one of our better players this season. I do. I think he's been one of our best players. Is it? Yeah, lovely performance from him. I thought, personally speaking. Pat Matasar, I've gone on about him enough, but great player. Love him. Love seeing him start for us. Wonderful player. Rodrigo Bentancur was very good tonight. Was very good. Shows that he can still do it on occasion. I don't think he's got enough in him to, he probably will start against Arsenal, but I'm not going to be expecting him to be setting the world alight. Don't worry, I'm not going to do more match analogies. Setting the world alight against them, but maybe, that's me just being a negative so-and-so. Good performance tonight, though. Well done. Thank you. Wilson Odobert, very good performance. Well taken goal. Very composed. When he received the ball, it wasn't going to be the easiest finish. It was a semi-open goal, but it wasn't a fully open goal. He was still composed. He finished the ball. He finished it lovely, in a lovely fashion. Great performance, I thought, overall from him. I do feel that. I do think he was really good. And, I think we do need to stick by players like him, and we need to give them the chance to breathe and the chance to grow, because he is showing that he is. There's flickers of brilliance there from him, I feel. Yes, I know the level of the opposition again, but still, whatever. You can only beat what's in front of you. Xavi Simons, just fantastic tonight. I honestly did. Did think he was a magician. I think he laid a couple on for Kalawani, if my memory serves correctly, which he didn't finish in the end, obviously. But he did. He put on an assist for the first, didn't he, for Brennan Johnson, with that lovely little sort of dink ball over the top, perfectly weighted, put into the brilliant piece of, brilliant area. Just enough space for Brennan Johnson to run onto. Good performance. Much more of that. I don't mind him getting angry when he gets taken off. I want to see more of that. I want to see players that want to play for Spurs. Brennan Johnson scored a goal, got a red card. Fair enough. Not really enough to go on like his performance, but it was a good goal. It was a good finish. Did he mean it? Did he not? Don't know. It went in the back of the net. Fair play to him. Also, one thing I do want to say, as much as I sort of I go on about him a bit, I don't like seeing the club put out a post about him making his 100th appearance for us, and rather disappointingly, it was full of some pretty kind of OTT abuse. It's not the time. Let somebody enjoy their wins. Have a moan about them whenever you want to, outside of that. But when it's like a positive, nice post, just let it go past you. Do you need to go on there and say he's not good enough? 100 games or 99 games too many was the hilarious comment that a lot of people put on there. You'd assume that the one game that wasn't bad was the one he scored the winning goal in the final in blah 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 blah. But just I don't know, back off a bit. Randa Kalawani, wonderful performance tonight. A little, should we say, an amber flag around his finishing, maybe his composure. But again, I don't really want to bring that sort of energy to this pod, because overall it was a fantastic performance. And, quite clearly he is one of the most talented players that we have at our disposal in that attacking third. And we need more of that, don't we? Especially if Kudus is out for however long, who knows? Maybe he'll be back against Manchester United. Maybe he won't be. Who knows? But we need more of that. We need Kalamwani. So keep going, lads. Well done. Of all the subs, João Palhinha, I did think was good when he came on. I know it's not popular, but well taken goal. Is the problem João Palhinha, or is the problem the fact that him and Bentancur always play together? I think perhaps that's more of it. Maybe it has to be João Palhinha or Rodrigo Bentancur, not the two of them together. But we'll see. If we get a game where Palhinha starts, we'll see what happens, if we can replicate the sort of performance that we put in tonight. Richarlison, you have to be disappointed with him for missing the penalty in the way that he did. I know people miss penalties, but still, it's coming at the end of a rotten sort of run for him, isn't it? Really, it's just just disappointing player, isn't he? Kevin Danso didn't really have to do much, did he? Jed Spence looked bright when he came on. A few surging runs towards the end. What you'd like to see from him. Well done, good lad. And Dane Scarlett, lovely little cameo. A lovely little cameo. It's just weird that he didn't get any minutes at all in the Carabao Cup. There are certain things that some managers do, and I'm not just going to blame this on Frank. It's what managers tend to do in general. It's one of those oddities in football where you just think, surely the Carabao Cup is the chance to give players like Dane Scarlett a go. I know the argument will be we were chasing the game against Newcastle. There was still the chance we could win. He's brought Dane Scarlett on when we were 3 or probably, no, I think we were 4-0 up by that point. So he brought him on when we're 4-0 up. There's less pressure on the lad. It gives him a bit more time to breathe, all that type of thing. However, still, doesn't pressure shape diamonds and all that type of thing? Don't you want to sort of stress test these young players a bit? Don't you want to say, we need to get a goal against Newcastle? Run out there, lad, and be the hero. I don't know. It's an interesting approach. And ultimately, I'm not a professional football manager. I'm sure there's reasons why these decisions are made. But it is just funny to see Dane Scarlett not get minutes in the Carabao Cup, but get minutes in the Champions League and almost score a goal, but at the same time win a penalty for us. With a really, really nice little sort of slalom run. So good luck to him. That's more than enough from me for one night. So thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for watching the stream. If you are watching the stream, and I see, again, as I say this every time, there's a lot more of you watching it than there are who have liked it. So if you are watching it, please just drop it a little thumbs up, give it a like. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you are listening on Spotify, again, a lot of Spotify subs, not as many likes as there are subs. Surely you must like it. Go on, drop me 5 stars on Spotify, please. Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, I keep saying that, Apple Podcasts as well. Ratings, reviews, it all helps the pod to grow. Pod has been growing this year, and lots of you have been leaving ratings and reviews, and I really do appreciate that. But I want more. I want more. Okay? So give me more. And I'll give you a nice little exclusive now as well. Exclusive. How pompous. Thursday's Q&A pod, I'm delighted to say, I'm going to be joined by Mr. Ricky Sachs. So if you have any questions for Ricky Sachs, please get them in either in the Spotify comments, send them to me on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, or on YouTube. Send me questions anywhere for Ricky Sachs if you've got any burning questions for him. I'll be recording that on Thursday. But for now, much love. Up the Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. Les grandes équipes, the champions. Well done. Well done, Tottenham. We love you, you useless, useless tossers.